SPSM Chat.
That was that was much classier. Like you have a second calling, I think, Janine. That was much. That's probably the best read that I've heard so far in any of these shows. So that's well done. Hey everyone, welcome to SPSM Chat. I am your host, Rudy Caseres. There is my name, at Rudy Caseres on Twitter. And this week's episode is Critiquing Mental Health Awareness Month. And when we say critique, we mean talk shit. We're going to be talking shit. I'm not. I mean, I love Mental Health Awareness Month. I wear that green ribbon all the time. I'm all about the hashtags, all about the t-shirts, and I'm just here to provide a platform for some lovely panelists to speak their own mind. And I want to hear from all of you as well. If you're watching this live, please let us know that you're here. Let us know that you care by using that hashtag SPSM. If you're on Twitter, of course, we are, of course, at SPSM Chat. But the fun doesn't stop there. We are also on Facebook.com/SPSM Chat, YouTube.com/SPSM Chat, where you can see all past episodes. Twitch.tv/SPSM Chat. I see Laz holding down that Twitch chat. I appreciate that. Sadly, you won't be able to have full reign over my lights tonight. Teardrop. Thank you, Grace Durbin, for liking the stream on Facebook. And without further ado, let's get into the swing of things. Let's get onto our lovely, esteemed panel, our round rectangle of amazing suicide lovers. Tell the whole world, the whole SPSM Chat universe, galaxy, solar system, who is Jeanine Hoff.
Hi, I am Janine Hoff. I am on Twitter at Yes You Shine, and I am the founder of a nonprofit called Where is the Sunshine? I have been a mental health advocate for the last few years. I'm also a therapist, so I'm a clinician. I work inpatient psych. Which I'm happy to talk a little bit more about how I ended up doing that with all the work, the advocacy work that I do, speaking out against forced treatment. And I love this work, but I do have a lot of opinions on Mental Health Month. And I think in doing this work over the last few years, Rudy, I mean, he can attest to the radicalization of Janine Hoff in this field. But I like where I'm at, and I'm comfortable, and the work that I think a lot of us are doing is actually, I think will eventually maybe turn a few things around. It'll take a lot more of us, and it'll take a lot more work, but I think we're starting to, at some points, in some ways, turn a corner.
Yes, and who would you credit most with your radicalization?
Oh, I have so many people that I can blame. No, that I love and adore. But I mean, it's the usual suspects, the people out there doing awesome work, like Desiree Stage, like Jess Stolman Raining, like Leah Harris, just people out there really talking about it from the other side and their experiences, and showing that what we see from a lot of larger organizations doesn't really reflect how it is.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure to give a shout out to Desiree because she's awesome. She was on our critiquing mental health awareness episode last year. So hope you're doing well, Desiree, as best as you can. We love you.
We
So
love you, Des.
yes,
Love you,
and
Dad.
this is like your 8th millionth time on SPSM Chat, Janine. So
I
that's
know.
great. So welcome. You're definitely a part of the family. So I'm glad that with such short notice, just like a few days ago, I feel like I reached out to you, and here you are, answered the call.
Yeah, and I'm not wearing a Star Wars shirt, I think, for the first time ever. But, it is a holiday weekend, so I have to put on my big girl clothes.
Well done, well done. And Joelle is a fan of your earrings as well. So
Oh, thank you, Joelle. Hi.
tell the whole world, the whole SPSM Chat universe, galaxy, solar system, planet, ocean, sea, lake, marsh, bog, body of work, cosmos, planetary intergalactic federation, magma, people, Mars, Jupiter, Florida. Who is up
Florida, you
for the
said, right?
challenge?
Yeah, so as Rudy said, I'm up for the challenge. I'm a mental health streamer and facilitator on Twitch. I also have my own separate website with resources and various things there. Also do a mental health podcast, which Rudy has actually been on recently as well. And I've done advocacy work and work within mental health in some form for about 3 or 4 years now. Both at the student level at universities and various other ways, across all sorts of things. In fact, at one point, I did consider starting my own charity. It's not something I pursued due to lockdown and the shit show that the government's done over here for the pandemic, but it may be something I'll look at in the future. But yeah, I'm pretty much known as being relatively pretty outspoken in terms of mental health. I am studying for a master's degree in global mental health at the University of Glasgow, and I'm doing a diploma in counselling and cognitive behavioural therapy, but I know nothing. I just talk as a grumpy Brit that has been through some shit, basically.
Yeah, and it's pretty late over there as well. So it's like, what, 2 a.m.? Oh my God.
Yeah, 2 a.m.
Yeah, but I think someone has you beat. I think we have someone from even further into the future. And for the first time on SPSM Chat, tell the whole world, just tell them who you are.
Hi, I'm Fern, also known as LustStarrr with 3 R's, Rudy, on Twitter. I'm from Australia, so I'm joining you from the Gold Coast, Queensland. Our Mental Health Awareness Month isn't actually until October over here because, Southern Hemisphere, and I don't know why it's then. But yeah, I've got big feelings about it as well, so I'm sure I'll have plenty to contribute to the chat.
Yeah, I mean, you're so far into the future that it's basically October in Australia anyway.
Feels like it.
Yes. So welcome. We're gonna treat you well. We're gonna take it easy on you this week. But because we don't want to scare you off, you've been one of our most active Twitch viewers and commentators, and so we appreciate that. I'm always saying, like, every week, like, we got to have you on the show, and what better episode to have you on? I mean, this is the first time, I think, so that where all of my guests have been from different continents. So how about that? All right, let's get into the swing of things. If you're just joining the conversation, we are critiquing Mental Health Awareness Month. And the reason why I had you three on is, first of all, Brandon Johnson said he was unavailable. So I reached out to Up for the Challenge. But
Fair.
But all honestly, I know each one of you, you're very opinionated, and you are all awesome in your own ways, and you all have views that are outside of the mainstream. I mean, how lame would that be if I had on 3 guests who speak nothing but good things about Mental Health Awareness Month? Because we all know that there are issues when you have any large campaign, any month, whatever you want to add to it. So. And it makes my job easier too. So I'm just going to lay this out here. What are your thoughts on Mental Health Awareness Month? And I'll leave it at that. And I'm just going to leave right now. And I'll let you guys have that at.
Oh, Rudy, I have so many thoughts. I think for me, it took a while for my thoughts or like my understanding that this is not the best, option. It took a few years for me to realize it. But as I got into this work and did it more and more and more and more, I realized that, ribbons and wearing green and cute hashtags and billboards, that's really nice. And seeing a billboard that says you are not alone is warm and comforting for about 2 seconds, and it does nothing for the individual. And as I kept seeing all these campaigns go on and on, I'm like, okay, you're telling people to reach out. You're telling people to go get help. But with what? What resources are out there? And for me, I kind of found that there was a conflict in the message, that it was kind of there was a hypocrisy where we tell people it's okay to not be okay, and at the same time, when a person is not okay, when they reach out, they're police show up, they get handcuffed, they get put in a police car, they get forced into a hospital. So you're saying it's okay for us not to be okay, but when we're not, you actually then take us out of society because you deem us too dangerous to ourselves or to others. And instead of actually giving us the treatment that we need, you cast us aside. And that to me was a big problem. And I think for the most part, I think that there's a lot of privilege in a lot of these messages. And that took me a few years to realize too, that telling people to reach out and get help, well, not everyone has the ability to do that. Not everyone has the strength to do that. Not everyone has insurance. Not everyone can get a therapist or a psychiatrist or whatever support that they need, because they're not available, because they're so backed up. The system is so burdened and it's just difficult. So we're telling people to do all of these things, but yet what's actually happening is the absolute opposite.
Yeah, Mental Health Awareness Month, it's a fucking nightmare. I mean, so it's even bad at the stuff that it tries to do. Like it's no good at what it's trying to do at all. But even the little things like you just mentioned, it's not even good at that. So I've suffered from mental health issues in some form for 27 years, at least if in terms of diagnosis. The first time I realized that a green ribbon had anything to do with Mental Health Awareness Day was when you just said it. I did not know. No fucking idea whatsoever. So they're not even good at getting a message that is shit in itself out to people. And I'm actively part of the community, and I still didn't know about it because it has nothing to do with mental health. They're no good at what they're doing. So, I mean, if we look at three main universities in the UK, we have about 130 universities of three main ones that have had issues. We have Canterbury Christchurch University, University of Sheffield, and Bristol University. Bristol University's response this year to Awareness Month was to do something on nature and to look at nature and, isn't this something good? That's fantastic, but I don't fucking care about nature. Bristol University, by the way, Bristol University being the university who for about 4 years in a row topped the suicide league tables in the UK for the amount of students that killed themselves. Christchurch University, their response to Mental Health Awareness Month every single year for at least the last 5 years has been just a raft of bullshit. I mean, one year they had a bouncy castle. That was to do with mental health awareness, apparently, was a bouncy castle. Every year they have the Dance Society actively block people into the cafe by doing a flash dance, which of course is fantastic for anyone with social anxiety or, ADHD, autism, OCD, any fucking thing. So that's a fantastic thing they also do. And even for the staff, I used to be staff at that university, and they used to have 4 stalls outside next to a little pond, and they had a teepee, and that was it. That was it for the staff. Christchurch University has had 4 suicides in the past 3 years. Sheffield University has had 7 suicides in the past 4 years, and their response to it this year was to send out a lot of emails, and I love this one. They sent them out crest seeds. Nothing, no explanation, no, not even putting a connection between it and mental health, just sending them out crest seeds and saying it's to do with mental health. The complete ineptness of everyone to do something about it. And I mean, I've heard the opinions of people going, oh, well, what if we just got rid of it altogether? Fucking do it. I don't want Mental Health Awareness Month. Get fucking rid of it. I want it gone. Because if I just kept saying, somebody broke their leg and I just kept saying, or someone was dying and I just went, look, they're dying. Did you see that person was dying? You know that person, they're dying. Are you going to help them? Oh, no. But they're dying. Let me put a poster up. Oh, by the way, I'm going to put the poster up in my business so that everyone knows that my business is really good for this and we really know that person is dying. You're going to give any profits? Oh, no. But my business is really good for that. And you can get a special thing in our shop that's to do with that. Fuck off. Like, people's argument of this assumption that, oh, if we don't have it, then we should have nothing. Good. I want nothing, because nothing is better than patronizing bullshit. because all the current system does is allow people to continue in that same vein of bullshit. And they can pretend they're doing something by just keep going, oh, but look, aren't we doing stuff? Oh, look, we had this nice little workshop and we had a little walk in the park. Wasn't that good for your mental health? Oh, aren't we fantastic as a business and a government? No, you're not. Stop spending millions and millions and literally billions of pounds on stuff that doesn't work, doesn't help anyone. I mean, these campaigns don't work in pretty much any way. If you look at research by the University of Cambridge in terms of drug resources and the response to campaigns on drug uptake, they looked at 19 different campaigns that were put out across the media. This is the University of Cambridge. They only found 4 of them to have any actual impact on lowering of drug taking. The other 15 didn't have any impact at all. No, sorry. The other 13 of those didn't have any impact at all. And 2 of them had an impact through different medication. So the vast majority of them don't work, even on campaigns that we actually think work. And they actually do things. The current one, this way of doing things doesn't do anything at all. And it is the most irritating thing because everyone misses the goddamn point.
What say you, Fern?
Rudy came back. He's like, I got to participate.
You have to stop me.
Actually, the point that I was thinking of, like, I don't know, it kind of reminds me, like, you remember those souvenir T-shirts people used to rock with, like, my grandma went to Florida and all I got was this shitty T-shirt, like that kind of thing. Yeah. It's kind of like we get a fucking month. Like, it's like a consolation prize. Like, we would rather have fully funded treatment options that we could actually access that were helpful and not harmful, and we would like to be treated like human beings and given compassion and care rather than being given a month. Like, all of this awareness raising, they've been aware of us for a very long time. For centuries, they were putting us in asylums. They were plenty aware of us then. Yeah. Well, they're still aware of us.
Well, let me
point in raising.
Let me ask you, Fern, how would you personally improve upon Mental Health Awareness Month? Is it even worth saving at all? I think I know Up for the Challenge answer, but what say you, Fern?
I think that the money that we waste on this bullshit could be better spent adequately providing supports and treatment for people living with what's diagnosed as mental health issues. And like, if we put that energy instead into doing things that were actually effective and that were actually desired by the people like us who have a lived experience, that would be far more beneficial than wasting time on having like bloody tea parties and all that stupid stuff.
All right, before we continue this conversation, let's get into some comments across our various platforms. Cheryl Boswell, friend of the show, says, let's put that up there. Janine, we often tweet each other, I love what you do. I mean, it goes downhill from there. So, just kidding. Okay, so Laz on Twitch says, this month is not for those who might actually use any of the services. It's a fucking joke. Yeah. Nisa says, I missed Mental Health Awareness Month this year on my end. It's so weird. I felt like this way last year. Like, even though we did a show on mental health awareness, it didn't feel like it. Because I'm used to like going out to like events and conferences and doing all kinds of different things, like even putting on events myself. And like with the pandemic, it just like felt so like inconsequential. Like even doing like a show like on mental health awareness, like because we did it like the downtown LA is like being rioted or protests and stuff like that, and so it just felt like this is like the least important thing happening in the world right now. And so I still feel like that even this year. That's a conversation that we're going to continue having as soon as we read this next comment. Last says, my job, they had an hour and a half of yoga in the courtyard for employees. They did not offer any logistics of how employees could take part, so it ended up they could use their lunch. Well, ain't that swell? Red Sox Cowboys Jazz says, my university said students to postcard we can fold into an origami. Oh, that's nice.
Oh, for the love of fucking God.
Can we pictures of that?
I hope it was an origami of a knife so you could stab the silly cunt that actually gave you that. Like, what the fuck?
Yes, Kevix on Facebook says awareness month of anything is capitalist and performative. And I'll get back to performative. That's a good point. Thank you for Claire giving us more details about. We want to know everything origami about the origami frog. Okay, just saying. Nisa says, I feel that the community of advocates are divided. Well, if they are, what side of the fence are you on, Nisa? Alaz says, can I have more money so I can increase my own supports? I need to care for myself and my life response to stress. Kevik says, are people aware of suffering therapy, psychiatry, medication, inpatient units, trauma? I think so. What is so left to be aware of? Good point.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, and then keep comments coming in. Like, I'll try to spread that out over the hour so I don't like completely stop the show to read comments and essays for 10 minutes straight. But I appreciate all of them. Keep coming. Especially also if you are on Twitter, make sure to use the hashtag SPSM. That way I can see your tweets and we can give you shout outs and make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Okay. So speaking of performative, like, do you feel like what would actually be a way to to start? Because for me, like, Mental Health Awareness Month it's for people to start a conversation about mental health, to raise awareness of issues, and especially for people who don't normally talk about mental health, like how is there a way, like, because like obviously we all do mental health advocacy in our own way in our own fields, so what can we do during Mental Health Awareness Month? Because it's not like Mental Health Awareness Month is going to go away. So what can we do without feeling like icky about it, or should we just
ignore it,
grit our teeth and ignore it, and just
literally ignore it? If you look at all the stories, all the stories in the news, or the stories online in text, everything like that through the year. This idea that mental health doesn't seemingly exist in the media is bullshit as well, because it does all the year through. If you go on the BBC website, there's always constant mental health things. They have their own mental health section on the BBC website, which is an international flipping broadcasting service that you have around the world as BBC International or BBC Atlantic, whatever it is now. But that's there, as well as being part of the normal part of discussion across the world. I mean, we literally had a breakdown with someone getting fired in the UK because they questioned Meghan Markle's mental health state. Mm-hmm. So that is part of it. The problem being that we actually get less stories about mental health in Mental Health Awareness, because what's the story the entire month? It's the story that it is Mental Health Awareness Month. There's no other story. There isn't anybody. There aren't individual stories. There aren't big, we've done leaps and bounds, because that's not there. You go from 30 stories in a month, each individual and having backed up from something else, or something else has come through and happened, to one story. It's Mental Health Awareness Month. Great. Can you fuck off so we can get some actual news? Because that's not helping us at all. It is actually detrimental to mental health to have mental health awareness. Now, I heard somebody say that people are divided on it. I've not met them. Then maybe this person is divided on this. I've not met anyone. The only people I've heard that are actually for Mental Health Awareness Month are those that I don't trust the qualifications of. And I mean literally, as in a university I sat on a board to look over mental health at the university, and two of the students on that committee actually asked for the qualifications of the counsellors to be checked. Those people were all for Mental Health Awareness Month. I've not heard anybody else actually be for it, because every time it is dealt with, it's like someone's done a spin wheel on YouTube to find a story about what they can do, like origami or some seeds. Students in universities are some of the most vulnerable, and they never get helped with it. I mean, in terms of mental health awareness at a university one of the universities I studied at, I was the president of Student Minds for 2 years running. There was with that, we had changed a lot of different things within the university to how people's got their mental health recognised for extensions. As well as that, we also helped set up an external kind of service for people to call, called Nightline, that they could ring into if they were worried. The university never once asked for our involvement in mental health awareness. Not once did they ask the students to be actually involved.
Janine?
So I will say maybe it's a little different here in the States, because I do understand the comment that it's divided. First of all, yeah, I can't stand awareness. You know what? We are aware of what we have, right? We are aware of the issues we face. We are aware of all the challenges. I don't need any more awareness. I am fully aware of what is wrong and all the issues I have. And I'm sure every single one here is too. But what I do see is that divide, because there are systems in place. There are these large organizations that when you first come into this field, I mean, I've experienced it, Rudy, I think you've experienced it too. They bring you in, they give you all this training, all of these tools, they welcome you, and they're like, you're promoting their message, you're promoting their agenda. And it's a very medical model based. It's very much what they want you to share. And it's very much like, I've recovered, recovery is possible. All of that, like really good, the good survivor narrative. And then you kind of keep going in this field, and then like you start not doing well, and you're like, wait a minute, I did all the things that you tell me that we're supposed to do. And then that's kind of where you realize. So we are in a way, I wouldn't say divided, but we do have that difference that some of us are there and some of us aren't there yet. But I think the longer that they're in that system, they might get there. And then there are people I see who are in this field who I do enjoy, that I do respect, but they are still very much like, you have to take your medicine, and you have to go to therapy, and you have to do your yoga and your exercise, and whatever these systems have taught them, they kind of do that. And so, yeah, I wouldn't say we conflict, but it's just, we're not on the same page, if that makes sense.
I was going to say, because that's not really necessarily conflicting with the idea of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think a lot of it is also the shit show that is the American medical healthcare. I mean, it's because the rest of the world kind of look at it and go, well, yeah, we know what's wrong there. But I mean, that's probably what's coming through. I would imagine LustStarrr has similar viewpoints, because it's, you have, Australia has a similar-ish system to the UK.
We have universal healthcare, but universal healthcare is still not universal. Like,
it's a bit different.
my sort of poverty end of the sort of socioeconomic spectrum compared to people who can afford private health cover and private treatment. Whereas I'm pretty much like beholden to the government for what pittance they will give us of mental health treatment, which is just enough to survive, I'd say. Not enough to actually recover or actually improve in any way, but it's enough to keep me kind of in stasis. So it's kind of like keeping someone on life support when you know that they're not going to actually pull out of that coma. It's kind of like keeping me alive and suffering, which is kind of more cruel in some ways. I'd love to be able to recover, but that's something that's not given to people like me who can't afford to pay for treatment. And it's like, do they realize they're doing this to us? Like, they whinge that we're costing society so much, but they're not giving us adequate resources to recover, and they're not giving us adequate welfare payments to survive at the same time. It's like, cool. So really, this is a form of torture. But yeah, I don't know. I know we've got it a lot better over here than you guys do in America, but at the same time, yeah, frickin' hell. It's not perfect by any means. The biomedical thing actually was something I was going to raise. This sort of biomedical discourse that happens around anything to do with mental health, the whole mental illness paradigm, the person as problem paradigm, it's our job to fix us paradigm is hugely problematic. We've got a day over here, an awareness day called Are You OK Day, like letter R, letter U, OK Day, which I've noticed that you guys have got the It's Okay Not to Be Okay thing this year, which is like, oh God, you can put it to now, because I hate that day with a vengeance. It pisses me off so much. I'm like, put the onus on the individual who is struggling to speak up to someone who's probably asking them just that once, and they're like, cool, I've ticked that box, don't have to do that again for another year. That's so hugely problematic. Like, disclosing to someone who doesn't usually give a fuck about your well-being on that one day when they all of a sudden do, and hoping that they will be able to handle anything that you share with them.
Well, I think that's where that performative stuff comes into play, because you have it mostly, you see Mental Health Awareness Month with these larger national organizations, but you also see it with corporations. You see it in the media, and that's kind of where it's happening. I mean, the amount of like speaking events and trainings I've done in the last month, I mean, are all people saying, come talk about Mental Health Awareness Month. They wouldn't normally call me any of in December. They wouldn't call me in January, but it's like, okay, we're going to get this out of the way. And you're right. It's like checking the box. Okay, we did this, and you can do it all year round, but yet they tend to focus on this. And a lot of it has to do with, they want to raise money. And so they do these things, like you said, Rudy, like they have these events where you're in a cafe and you're listening to a poet, and it's like, okay, mental health awareness. And it's like, they're not connected. And like a lot of that stuff happens. You have a lot of these programs and events. I've done them too. I mean, to raise money. And I think that in other awareness months for other illnesses, disorders, like if you have a rare disease and you're trying to raise money and you do an awareness month, yeah, that actually can help if you raise money to fund research for that disease, or fund treatments for rare illnesses. And then you have like breast cancer and colon cancer awareness months and stuff like that to raise awareness so people get screenings. But even there too, it's performative, because if a person can't afford to go get the testing, or if they don't meet the age requirement, for those, at least here we have age requirements for insurance, like you have to be 50
having to
or
pay
whatever.
is a weird thing as well.
Yeah. And so, so with mental health, you're raising all this awareness, but I mean, most people, it's hard to find a therapist here, and then it can be very expensive. And I will say that therapists here do have sliding scales, some of them, but a lot of them charge $150, or psychiatrists can charge $250 an hour. I've seen one therapist charge $350 an hour, like $350. And I don't know how that translates into but it's going to be a lot of money either way, however it translates into your currency. So
healthcare, and there's still out-of-pocket costs for most of our psychologists and psychiatrists here. So even if you do have like universal health cover, like we don't, because there's still so many out-of-pocket costs for virtually almost every like private psychologist or psychiatrist, which is ludicrous. But the awareness raising thing, it reminds me of like the stigma busting campaigns. Stigma busting campaigns, totally useless. Like, there's an Australian mental health advocate. Her name's Faye Jackson. She's fan-bloody-tastic. Look her up on YouTube. She's got a couple of presentations where she speaks about her lived experience. And she is like, screw stigma. Stop talking about stigma. It's not about stigma. We need to start talking about discrimination and the deprivation of human rights, because that's what it's all about. That's the base issue. Stigma is just a symptom of that. And that's what we need to be focusing on. We need to be championing our human rights, and talking about the discrimination that we face, rather than trying to bust stigma. Like stigma, we've spent so much time and energy trying to bust that goddamn stigma, and it's still there. I think we need to try and change tack and do something different for a change.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. With us over here, it really doesn't cost for psychiatry and stuff. We don't even have the term universal healthcare, because it's just what it is. It always has been, kind of thing. It's in fact, I think it's something like 33 to 37% of those that go to private go back to the NHS within 5 years, because it's better in the NHS. So for all of the bullshit the media try and throw at it every now and again, it's like, oh no, wait, I can just go to the NHS. Like, actually, if you have an emergency and you're private, you go to the NHS. The private actually send you to the NHS for the emergency anyway. That's the automatic thing to do. So we do have that. We do have a lot more things. The only problem we have is that it tends to be very singular in the kind of therapies and things that are offered. So it's not a wide breadth. That's the biggest problem I think we have here, rather than anything else. So in terms of we don't have to really pay anybody for it. So it doesn't really work that way for us. You do have the issue of waiting times, of course, which can be a problem, and it is postal lottery. If you're in some parts of Scotland, you'll get one almost immediately. If you're in some parts of London, you might have to wait for some while. So it really does depend. Be right with the stigma campaigns. They're all the same kind of thing. Of like we've seen We know about all of this now. We don't need to keep banging on about the thing that you've just been beating us over the head with. You know, if we didn't have some kind of issue before, we do now, because you've been smacking us with it for the past 30 years. Like, it's just constant, and we don't need that anymore. And no one wants to listen to that. All they want to do, as you said, with companies and with corporations, is here, that's a sticker. Perfect. Aren't we amazing because we did the thing we're meant to do, rather than just doing it all year round. It's like when it came up on Twitter about it's Mental Health Awareness Month. I instantly made sure that I was following those that had a certain comment and unfollowed anyone that started pushing Mental Health Awareness Month. Any of those I was following beforehand, I instantly unfollowed. And those of them that I started to follow more or maybe interact more was those that specifically said, oh, it's Mental Health Awareness Month, so I'm going to do the same thing I do every month. I was like, brilliant. Okay, I'm following the right person. But those that were like, oh, we should really, no, we shouldn't. Because if you're having to change tack as a mental health advocate, if you're literally changing tack for this month, you're part of the fucking problem as well. Because it's okay not to be okay, all of this stuff, mental health itself, it's become a hashtag. It has become a hashtag rather than an actual thing. Mental Health Awareness Month is a hashtag. It is the main hashtag on Twitter all through the month. Mental health matters is the main hashtag. It's okay not to be okay is the one that irritates me the most. And I actually did like an episode of Twitch and on my YouTube for this, because it irritates me the most. Because yes, it's okay not to be okay, and you should realize that. But that's not where the fucking conversation ends. If your only response to someone is it's okay not to be okay, anyway, back to Apex Legends, shut the fuck up and give them some resources. Talk to them. Don't just go, it's okay not to be okay. That's the end of my care. No, if you're going to have a mental health hashtag, talk to people. Don't just give them a throwaway line or some stupid Dumbledore quote. Actually help people. And I'm going to relax for a second.
Yeah, you're getting a little
Yes.
wound up. But no, I agree with you with the hashtags or with the statements. Like the one that bothers me, and I tweet is like, reach out and you are not alone. There are people who are alone. There are people I work with every day, and I specialize in the clinical setting with schizophrenia and manic bipolar. And I can tell you every single day I work with about 15 to 30 people who their families don't want anything to do with them. They have no contact with them. They, like, families have been off. They say, I have no friends. A lot of them are homeless. And that's a whole different episode of the show. But the main thing is that they really don't have anyone. And so their resource, their connection is us. And that's the thing. And we have to acknowledge that there are people who aren't even, with disorders like that, who may just have, major depressive disorder or anxiety, but still don't have a support system or feel that they're alone. Even times for me, like I feel I'm alone, and like my husband will say, if you are struggling, and you put it out there, I assure you, he even mentioned Rudy by name. He's like, Rudy and Desiree, they would not let you feel that way. They would be there. They would be your support system. So we've built our support system online, because in our real lives, in our in-person lives, we don't have that support system, because people just they're not equipped. They just don't know how to support people who are struggling like us at times.
Absolutely. I was doing this sort of like self-isolation thing since pre-COVID. Like I was doing it before it was cool. I've been kind of a little bit of a stuck in. I've been, housebound a lot of the time. And it's great that I grew up on the internet and found my community early on the internet and realized that there was connection there, because without that connection, I don't think I would have survived thus long. Like the ability to find community on the internet is something that us sort of Gen X, Y, younger have the benefit of, whereas older people don't have that advantage unless they've taken to technology sort of more than their peers. And I'm so thankful that I've accessed that, but I feel for anyone who can't access that. And I mean, that sense of connection and sense of community is something that maybe we should be putting energy into forging that type of stuff instead, because that's the sort of thing that is actually beneficial to people. And it exists outside of the biomedical model. It is something that is people supporting people. It's what we were born to do. It's what we've evolved to do. Forming that sense of community is so vital. And this type of awareness bullshit doesn't do that.
No, I mean the social media thing. It's like it's so annoying because the stuff that we get into with social media and the help that a lot of us find in social media. The second you see anything on mental health, then we're going to talk about that. Okay, what about social media and mental health? Oh, it's bad for your mental health. Sure. Can we ask someone who's actually dealt with it rather than someone who's 90 in the House of Lords or that has never been on a fucking computer? Actually, let's talk to someone, because if we actually look at the amount of people that have had detrimental things, yes, it happens. Absolutely, it happens. But let's look at the other side, of which there is way more. It's the same as with gaming. There was so much research about gaming and its interaction, and it was always bad until they did an actual live playthrough with two specific games during lockdown, and they did it with people's mental health, and they did it at, I think it was the University of Cambridge again, and they found, surprisingly enough, almost everyone that took part had better well-being because they were interactive with other people live on the internet. I mean, I've talked about this before on here, and I've said about it in other places. Twitch is the reason I'm still alive. It's like when I first came on, there was obviously, it wasn't the only thing, and the 5 channels that I always talk about aren't the only reason I'm here. But if any one of those channels that I went into hadn't have been there, I wouldn't be. I had literally planned out my death when I went on because of the loss of my wife. Then we went straight into lockdown, pretty much straight off of that. I was in the house by myself. Lockdown in the UK meant complete lockdown. No one would have found me. I basically had 9 days to go, and I was counting them down. And there was 5 channels that made me smile when I couldn't. And they are the reason, okay, my dog being there and people texting me and stuff like that on top of it, but it was everything. And if they hadn't have been there, if Twitch hadn't have been there, I wouldn't be here. And, there's a knock-on effect of them people that have said the similar things to me. And this idea that social media and things like that doesn't help, when, as you say, Lux, it really does. Call me Chris, who is a massive TikTok star. She's got 40 million people following her now. She did a podcast with me a couple of times about the fact that TikTok has literally helped save her life as well, because she was suicidal, she was having depression, and she just about got away from it, and then she went onto TikTok, and her mental health has risen so much. She's had the drops like everyone does, but she's grown off of it as well. And there's so many more stories of that than there are of someone being bullied and taking their own lives. And yes, we have to take that into account, but we can't just have this same draconian viewpoint every time we mention something of it, because otherwise we sound like that old Kurt Russell film where the dean of the university won't buy a computer because it's a waste of money. No, let's actually do something.
Great reference.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a pause right there. Let's get into some comments and some chatter, and then we'll get back, and we got to get into final thoughts in about 6 minutes, just so you all know. So just I have to play my role as a traffic cop now. So Nisa on Facebook says the division is a spectrum. People in favor of the medical model and medications versus anti-psychiatry and anti-medications. Okay, great. Laz on Twitch says recovery is possible in quotes, but only if it's this specific.
Yes. Have you seen the neo recovery stuff that recovery in the bin? There's a UK organisation called Recovery in the Bin, and they pretty much they say that recovery is being co-opted by the system, and therefore neo-recovery is the term that they've come up with to describe that sort of polluted version thereof. Have a look for neo-recovery if you Google it.
Absolutely. Okay, let's get to some more comments, and then we'll get back into conversation. Says a lot of is that USians have a similar POV as to what UP is saying, though it's not like a big secret. I totally missed the context of that. That's awesome. Kevik says, I was thinking that healthcare excludes mental health care, and even that psychiatry and not trauma-informed psychology. And also says, mental health in corporations is meant to keep you working, not to heal, not to disrupt the workplace. Yes. I've actually been wanting to do an episode on workplace mental health and to cover that aspect as well.
I mean, that first point didn't actually go against anything that we said. There wasn't actually a division, because mental health awareness wasn't actually. I know there's a division between whether we should have medication or not, but that actually doesn't whatever way you're doing it, just going hi, you're okay doesn't go against that in either way. So I'm a bit confused about what was brought up there. But the amount of times I get people come into my stream that go, oh, I haven't been very productive today. Why the fuck is that name in your lexicon? Why are you using that word? Why is that the first word you have? Because it's been battered into you that you've got to be productive.
Our government's productivity commission just put out a report on mental health and virtually how much we're costing the government.
Yeah. Oh, don't even get us started on the cost factor that it's constantly pushed into, our brains. Well, like if you help your employees with mental health, you'll save $6 billion or whatever the amount is. And it's like our lives aren't a monetary issue. Like we're humans. We have to be approached like humans. I say this all the time, even with like clinicians, right? When they call 911, which is our emergency rescue here. When they call and they're like, a person suicidal, oh, let's call the 911. Let's have the police come, whatever. And it's like, if you're approaching treatment from liability or from a financial perspective, then you're approaching it from the wrong way. Like it should be the person. And that should be, towards the end. I mean, you have to kind of think about how you're approaching how you treat a person, and then that's really important.
Okay, we got a doozy from Patty Orich, and I'm sure some of you will have some thoughts as well. It's a long one, so I have to actually no. I found out a way to zoom to text on my computer so I can read it, and that didn't work. So awesome. Okay, so let's get into this, and then we'll get into final thoughts, and we'll bring it home. Patty, Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Okay, so yet some individuals with mental illness stigmatize themselves. Sorry, Patty. That's a great photo. I'm not trying to laugh at you. There's no harm in encouraging us to share their stories. These campaigns can make a difference, even if they only reach a few people. Mental illness is definitely a civil rights concern, yet because it's often invisible to others, it remains hard for people to understand, so the reactions are based on fear. Additionally, I don't think it's helpful to downplay people's efforts to draw attention to mental health this month. It's the hashtags that help the media become curious and share some stories, whether via print or broadcast. You can't paint all these awareness efforts with one broad brushstroke. Mental health recovery isn't linear, nor should local, state, and national efforts promoting mental health be linear. They should be relevant to the area where individuals live and sensitive to local culture. Thank you, Patty. Thoughts? I know somebody has them.
I mean, unfortunately, there's a few issues in there immediately. First of all, that's clearly an American viewpoint because it said state. So it's probably marred by the medical system there as well. But we've had the media it's not this idea that the media has suddenly become interested. It's been interested for fucking decades. Rain Man was one of the most decorated at the Oscars films of all time and was based on bullshit. It had some of the worst identification of autism in history of any goddamn film there is, and actually created pretty much their careers, or at least took them to higher limit. And our viewpoint of autism through the 80s and 90s was based on that. This idea that the media has suddenly become interested is bullshit. It's always been interested. It's always been something that they can play with. It's always been something in the media since the 60s and 70s. Those crazy people, the crazy killers, that's always been something they're doing. The idea now that we're just going, oh yeah, but we can't downplay it. But the problem is that it doesn't help people. Telling them somebody has an issue doesn't help. You know what helps is when they actually do something. The people that are being helped aren't the ones that are being told, hashtag, oh, check me out. No. It's the ones that actually get given phone numbers. They get given people to go and speak to. They get given the ideas. What it's likely been happening that Patty's talking about is that actually there's a connection between, there's a hashtag, and then there's some support and there's some resources. There's something that goes with it. That's fine. But the idea of just going, hey, we're amazing, as we said about the amount of talks that we have and the amount of stuff that comes out of corporate every year at this time, because corporate want to look good, that is wasted money. They're not being helped by it. They're just not. And the amount of times, and I said at the beginning, I don't know if they were there for this, but actually, if we can see this across the board with actual campaigns and things like drug campaigns, of which University of Cambridge literally looked at. One of the biggest campaigns across the world, especially when we look at the way it was put forward by Reagan when they were trying to basically downplay anyone that was black or Latino, and the way it was done there and in the UK and everywhere else. The University of Cambridge have done this, and it is not helpful. Those massive campaigns have been going for decades. Hasn't helped at all. Not once. These are the big campaigns that people actually do get behind and they do have drives for. And this one's just a, hey, aren't we fantastic? Come and have a coffee at Starbucks because we say yes to mental health.
And I will point out, so she did mention in her comment about the campaigns and that they should be specific to and sensitive to cultures. And the problem is that they're not, because this is kind of what we will all talk about. I mean, if you see any of my commentary on Twitter, you'll know that's part of the issue, that it's so generic, it's so broad that it's not addressing the issues. Like, for example, a few weeks ago, there was this whole thing that came out that suicides in 2020, the preliminary data shows that they've actually gone down. And everyone's like, great, it was almost like, we did it, guys, look, good job. But then when you got later information came out that, yeah, overall suicides have gone up, but suicide in the Black community has increased. Depression and anxiety in Black and Latin communities have gone from like 8% to like 34%, 32%. You also see an increase in Black youth suicides. And you see that the causes for their suicide has to do with a lot of racial trauma and other issues that we don't talk about. We just say, oh, depression and anxiety, but a lot of it is environmental. The same thing with the LGBTQ youth. You've seen an increase in suicides there. You've also seen an increase in attempted suicides, specifically in those who have had conversion therapy. So, I mean, the data is there and the research is there, but these major programs, these major advocacy campaigns aren't addressing specific target audiences. It's just very broad and very general. Yeah, if they were specific, we'd all be very happy, right? Because they'd be addressing different communities and different needs.
Well, that'd be actually doing something rather than just awareness. I think that's the difference, is being culturally specific and helping things. That's action. That's not awareness.
Mm-hmm. What say you, Fern?
Being specific, it involves having conversations about the social determinants that actually lead to what is diagnosed as a mental health issue, or what is a suicidal crisis. I mean, without talking about socioeconomic disadvantage and unemployment or underemployment or shit employment, being treated like crap by people who expect you to work for pittance and treat you like crap, like that sort of stuff fucks with your mental health. That causes what is diagnosed as a mental health crisis or a suicidal crisis, and what manifests as drug and alcohol issues and stuff. And that there's scarce conversation about that sort of stuff. It's all about the individual problem model. And I mean, yes, there is nuance, and not all of this is bad. Not all of awareness raising is terrible, but that's the way things go. I mean, there's nuance in everything, and it's impossible to say that everything's all bad, but at the same time, we need to call out and critique what is bad about it, because our voices are seldom in these discussions.
Yeah, and just to be clear, because I didn't want to make it seem like we're piling up on you, Patty. If you're doing work that's really making a difference in your community, people's lives are improving, you're achieving your objectives, we applaud you. Yeah. So I just want to make sure that we're calling your specific work bullshit, because we don't know you personally, and we're sure that the work that you are doing is very honorable indeed.
I think that's interpretation, because like I say, if Paddy's doing work in the community, that's action, that's not awareness. In my mind, that's very different. And as you, LustStarrr, just to, very quickly, it's similar of like, yes, there may be good things, but Jimmy Savile, when we found out in the UK that Jimmy Savile was a paedophile, did we remember all of the times it had helped hospitals? No, we just went, that cunt was a paedophile. Like, if it's shit overall, we don't look at the individual minutiae, because that doesn't matter anymore. There's a bigger fucking problem.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into final thoughts now, and then let the comments keep flowing. I'll try to give a few more acknowledgements before we wrap things up completely. And let's go with Janine, final thoughts.
I don't love awareness for all the reasons that I shared. And I think that we have to be very clear that awareness and advocacy and action are not the same thing, right? It's very different. And if you're doing, you're changing your community and you're putting whatever programs into action. I had a speaking engagement the other day that they created a program and they wanted me to talk about mental health awareness. And I did, because I was able to say, well, your program is actually doing the work. It's doing early intervention. It is helping people, reaching people before they end up in crisis, before they're isolated, before they're alone. That is very different. So I want to make that distinction. But I think for the most part, I think we have to kind of move away from awareness and really move into just actual change and really taking this and moving beyond that. If a company wants to do an awareness campaign, then actually provide resources for your employees. Don't just have them come in, do yoga and draw pictures. Like, have them actually provide mental health services, have an EAP or whatever kind of program that you can do to actually help them.
Yeah, don't be like Bell in Canada, who has like a big Bell Let's Talk Day, and then be really shitty at giving people mental health days. Just that. So I'm gonna. You are your nonprofit. Where is the Sunshine? How's that going right now? I know last year you were in the middle of a rebrand. The website is up again. How's that going?
I mean, it's things are like, again, moving, because we don't like to do the Zoom stuff. We actually like to do actual in-person training and all of that. So in the last few weeks, it's been madness. But this is because it's Mental Health Awareness Month. But there's so much cool stuff coming up. I'm actually doing another podcast with Ephraim Epstein, which I think you know, Rudy.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to be talking about mental health in the workplace in a few days.
Awesome. And I'm gonna.
And with Josh too. I don't know if you know Josh Riverdale.
Oh yeah. I've worked with him before. He's in LA. He's awesome. Great hair, by the way. Awesome singer. Tell him I said hello.
Yep.
And you are at Yes You Shine on Twitter. Look at that. I said it right. Cool. Thank you, Janine. I appreciate you. I'm sure this will be far from the last time you'll be on. I'm glad that we're still connected, and I'm excited for all that you got going on.
Yep. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Okay. Final thoughts for 1 second. There we go. Final thoughts up for the challenge.
I mean, as Janine just said, there is a difference between advocacy, action, and awareness, and that is something that should be made clear. My immediate response to that question is because it irritates me every time, because it's so defensive when it comes to mental health awareness rather than actual action. But yes, action and advocacy and awareness are very, 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 very different things. Unfortunately, I think the idea of awareness tries to take them all under its umbrella to make it look like it's doing something, and it really doesn't. So as was said and has been said throughout, I think it's time to shed this idea of awareness. Or if you're going to have it, let's just have mental health awareness and not have a month or a year or a week or a day. Let's just have mental health awareness and actually just work with things to try and do something rather than just make it look good for when you're having Starbucks. It's very annoying at that point. It's just ridiculous, this continual idea of things. As I said at the beginning, I didn't know there was a green ribbon until today, and I've been involved in mental health stuff for 4 years. No one's ever mentioned it to me because it's not been a thing that's ever been part of it. Now I know that's something that is small and part of the minutia, but if that's your sign of your month, and I'm not even seeing that as an advocate and as a facilitator, and that's not part of it for me, what hope is there for, one, anybody that's seeing that, or two, anybody that's even wearing it knowing what it's really for? Because most of the time nobody knows what those colors of ribbons are for anyway. So let's move away from awareness and actually do something.
Thank you. And you are at Up4theChallenge on Twitter.
Yes, there's no E at the end, but yeah, Up4theChallenge on Twitter, and Up4theChallenge on Twitch, and I'm Let's Chat podcasts with an S on the end on YouTube, where I do mental health podcasts, and I'm also Up4theChallenge MH on YouTube, where I do 4 or 5 minute videos on mental health, and you'd be happy to know if you would like to use them that they're surprisingly for me, is no swearing whatsoever on that YouTube channel. So they are that's the one thing I do that is actually very family friendly.
Yes, and I really did have a good time on your show. That was I think 2 weeks ago that came out on YouTube, or I guess technically last week. But then you're in next week, and Fern is next month in June. So we're all over the place. But go check that out. It was a good thing. If you're always like wondering like, does Rudy have thoughts? I do, and they're on Up for the Challenge podcast. So thank you for that, and thanks again for being on this show. You're always a good sport. So hope to have you on again in the near future.
Yeah.
Same for you, Fern. Final thoughts?
Oh God, so many thoughts. Pretty much like this whole like awareness thing. At the end of the day, it's focused around being aware of people who are experiencing mental ill health, which is othering us. So the whole thing is built around othering us, making us the abnormal ones, instead of the compassionate, sort of nurturing, accepting type of environment that would probably be better suited to actually benefiting all of us. So I don't know. Yeah, fuck awareness. Bring on some compassion instead, I think. It's kind of like that Jimmy Savile thing that Up for the Challenge said about, like, yeah, once that sort of pedophilia thing happened, just, yeah, it's done. I kind of have that sort of like, do we just throw this goddamn system out? Is it so broken that we just go, fuck it, we need to do something different and just forget about trying to reform it and just abolish the whole damn thing? Then again, I still work on both sides of the fence. I work trying to reform things, and I kind of, work trying to work out ways to tear it down and start something better. But yeah, that's, so many more thoughts. So many more things I could say, but we've run out of time. So, yeah.
No worries. Thanks again for being on the show. Hopefully we'll have you on again soon. You're on Twitter at LustStarrr, 3 R's.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Go follow Fern. Can we expect any Twitch streams from you in the future?
I have been considering it, but I need to get a way better setup before I can do that. So, yes.
Yeah. SPSM Chat will auto host the fuck out of that. Okay, so for our 13 followers. But thank you. I'm glad that you're on here. We appreciate like having your views on and sharing your voice. So until next time, thank you so much, Fern. I appreciate you. And let's get everyone back on the screen. Actually, I had final thoughts. Isn't that rare? Okay, so one of the things that's been bothering me every year, and we really need to acknowledge, is the fact that a lot of these larger organizations, and even smaller ones, if we're being honest, they have these big mental health campaigns, and they're built on the backs of like free labor from people with lived experience to share their stories, to bleed on stage, to bleed on the screen, and all that stuff. To share our journey from the dark days to we're all better now, our recovery journey. And we don't usually get paid for it. And these organizations, they raise money. What they do with that money, we don't always know. It may not always lead to actual action, which is what should come after awareness. You raise awareness for issues that people didn't know about so that they can then take action. It's not a it's not a big circle jerk that where everyone's just like aware and then that's the end point. No, that's the very beginning. So if you're going to have a big mental health campaign, don't expect people to just like give their free labor to share their stories for you and then forget about them right afterwards, and you suck. That's all. Okay, so let's get on to all four. Read any last minute chat. Am I wrong on that?
No, I can tell you it's so many that they do that. They make you, share your story, share your experiences. And you go around doing their trainings, you go around doing their talks and talking to wherever they want their message to be out, and they're raising all this money. And you don't see a nickel of it. You're out there doing the work. You're driving to the locations. I mean, I had done it for so long, and I think that's part of why I became started to realize something's not right here. And I think the one time where it actually got really bad was when one of the organizations requires a membership fee, and they said you have to pay your membership, and I said, well, I can't really pay it right now. And they sent me a copy of their bylaws with the line highlighted saying that if you cannot pay your fee, then you cannot speak or engage, in public on our behalf until you do. And I was like, okay, that's a problem.
So no poor people allowed is what I'm hearing from that.
Nope.
Yeah.
The pound of flesh that you gave them wasn't enough?
Yeah. Nope. The 40 talks I did for them in 1 year wasn't enough.
I called those bastards out very, very loudly on social media if I were you. But
Okay, we're gonna end it there. There's definitely a conversation that we can have forever. Great points from everyone. Thank you, Laz, who's actually going to be my co-host next week. Which should be fun. I'm sure we'll have a lively conversation. And then we're going to be taking a break, SPSM Chat, for the summertime. But that is just to recharge the batteries and be back better than ever. And you never know, we might just do a pop-up show every now and then. And if anyone out there is interested actually in, say, doing a takeover show like you saw last week, hosted by Depressed While Black, Amade, awesome job. I appreciate that. It was so fun to just sit back and let them do their thing. So thank you, Amadi, for doing that. And so if anyone else wants to do a takeover show like that and has a crew, I'm more than happy to help produce. But SPSM Chat is, of course, is immortal, even long past me. So I'm excited for what we have in store for you all in the future. And I couldn't do it without amazing people like Jeanine Hoff, like Fern, like Up4theChallenge, like amazing people like in the chat as well. So thank you on our various platforms. And you know where this is going. Twitter.com/SPSMchat, Facebook.com/SPSMchat, YouTube.com/SPSMchat, where you can see all past episodes, as well as on SPSMchat.com, and our newest and greatest platform, Twitch.tv/SPSMchat. Please make that platform grow. That way we can then host Fern when Fern streams, and then we can just spread radicalism and just create a new beginning. Ain't that right, Janine?
On the summer break, Twitch has just started up a hot tubs and pools topic that you can stream. So summer's coming up. While you're taking that break, you guys can do a poolside SPSM chat.
Hey, there we go. We might even show up at the beach. You never know what SPSM Chat. That's why I'm not even going to announce any regarding future dates. Just expect us always. And of course, with SPSM Chat, expect the unexpected. So that's going to do it for this week. We'll see you again next Sunday night, 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. And what time is that in Australia time, Fern?
11 a.m. on a Monday for me.
Wow.
And 2 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, whatever the fuck you're doing.
Well, it's British Standard Time. It's British Summer Time at the moment, but yeah, 2 a.m.
Okay. All right. And 9 p.m. Eastern time in Florida. Hopefully the weather's treating you well there. Hopefully you survive hurricane season this year, Janine. So that's going to do it. Great way to end. Okay. So Janine, sign us off.
Oh, well, thank you for coming. Hope to see you soon. Thanks a lot. That's the end of SPSM Chat with your host, the Rudy Caseres.